So I think one of the most important things a person can do, especially in their 20s, if you can do it earlier, that's even better, but especially in your 20s, is what I call getting a master's degree in life. Now, what exactly is a master's degree in life? I see people, they go to undergraduate school, and then they move on to get their master's. They go to graduate school to get their master's. And I tend to find that getting your master's from college is less effective than getting your master's in life. Instead of investing those, 3 or 4 years to get your master's afterwards, after undergrad school, I think you're better off investing 3 or 4 years just living life. And when I say living life, I think when people think of living life, they think of partying, having fun, drugs, sex, all that stuff, dopamine hits. I don't mean that at all. What I do mean is that you should dedicate 3, 4, 5, 6 years, however many years after you graduate, during your 20s, to improving yourself, to gaining insights about your own life and about life in general, to get more experiences. And I don't mean experiences like traveling. I don't mean experiences that are just fun. I mean experiences where you get your ass kicked, where someone smashes you in the face, punches you in the face, as Gary Vee likes to say, hands you your ass, where you take a lot of risk. I think all of that should be done in your 20s. And I always think about this from the framework of Eudaimonia. If you've watched any of my videos, if you've been following me on social media, if you read any of my articles, you've probably seen or heard me talk about the idea of Eudaimonia before. Eudaimonia, effectively, is the fulfilled life. It's the good life. It's a flourishing life. So I approach everything from that perspective of the foundations of Eudaimonia, which is health, wealth, and relationships. To me, to get your master's degree in life, first of all, start with health. Go to the gym more, exercise more, educate yourself more, take a lot of courses, explore different types of jobs. I feel like a lot of people, they're told to get a job when they're like 17. And when I say get a job, I mean choose a career, get a degree, choose a career is what I mean. They're 17, 18. People say to them, you need to figure out what you want to do in life. And that's always been such a weird concept to me. It's like, how do you really know as a 17 or 18-year-old what you want to do in life? You haven't really lived life yet. You don't know what's out there. You don't even know what jobs are on the table. Do you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer? Or do you want to be a pilot? Do you want to be an electrician? Do you want to do a trade? Do you want to be a journalist? Do you want to be some kind of reporter? There's so many different options. Do you want to be an entrepreneur? There's so many different options out there, so many different careers you can choose from, so many different jobs, so many different ways to make money. To me, it's almost insanity to ask a 17 or 18-year-old how they want to spend the rest of their lives. Especially nowadays where you might not live to just like 40 or 50 or 60. You'll probably live to like 80 or 90, maybe even further, in the future. To be 17 or 18 to have to make such a long-term decision to me is absurd, but we do that. My opinion is take your 20s, get your master's degree in life. And while you're getting your master's degree in life, that is the time period when you can figure out what you really want to do. Maybe you spend 2 years in a nonprofit and you thought when you were 17 or 18 that a nonprofit would have been the thing you would have wanted to do forever. You spend 2 years there and you figure out, oh, this is shit. This is awful. I hate this. I've learned new things about nonprofit organizations that I didn't know before, and that changed my overall perspective. That made me dislike this setting much more. Or maybe you were ambitious. Maybe your family encouraged you to be some kind of investment banker or work on Wall Street, something like that. Had you taken the standard career path that's given to you by college, you may have gotten into that career. You may have been enthusiastic at first. You may have thought that was the best career because your family, your parents, your friends, everyone around you told you that it would be. You may have thought that the money would have made it worth it, would have made it worthwhile. You get into the career. You do it for about 5 or 6 years. You hate it every single year, but in the back of your head, you think to yourself, the next year will be better. The next year will be better. This will all be worth it. I'm going to be rich. This will all be worth it. And maybe you do make a lot of money, but you've effectively given yourself golden handcuffs. You've locked yourself in a career that you can't really get out of, not because you don't have the money to do it, but because the pay is so good, it's difficult to turn around from it, even though it makes you anxious, even though it makes you super stressed out, even though it destroys all your relationships. If you spent a little bit of time dabbling in it, getting your master's degree in life, you would have known that career wouldn't have been worthwhile in the long run, and you could have gotten out quickly. You could have gotten out sooner and tried something new. You could have had a new experience. Like I said, not all experiences need to be good, and in my opinion, the most valuable experiences aren't good. That's what I mean by getting a master's degree in life. When it comes to relationships, and I see this a lot, to be honest, a lot of people, they get their masters or their doctorates. They're not good at understanding the opposite sex. How could they be? They haven't been dating. Maybe they picked up a date randomly here and there, but it wasn't an active pursuit. It wasn't an active endeavor. It was more or less accidental. Maybe they were in a class with some girl, if you're a guy watching this, or maybe if you're a girl watching this, you were in class with some dude. You two talked a little bit, maybe spent a lot of time together. You weren't really playing the field, so to speak. They were just the first person that caught your eye, and in doing so, you obsessed about them. You thought about them a lot, and that's what built the attraction, that consistent thinking about them. But you don't really know exactly how to date. You don't really know what dating truly is. You don't really know how to understand females if you're a man watching this, or you don't understand how to understand men if you're a female watching this. And so ultimately, down the line, down the road, you get stuck in this relationship that is not fulfilling, not exciting, and you find out that you and the other person, you don't even have that much in common. You don't even like each other that much. You were just in a very stressful situation in grad school, or getting your doctorates, or becoming a doctor, or whatever it was. And that was the best option at the time, so you thought. And so you stuck with them forever, until you get a divorce, or until you live the rest of your life unhappy with them. If you go down my route, and if you get your master's degree in life, you spend a few years trying to date. You spend a few years trying to understand what you do like and what you don't like. As a man, you do understand, you do take the time to try to go through that playboy phase, to try to go through that whole, pickup phase. You talk to multiple girls at the bar on the weekends. You understand the dynamics of women. You understand about their body language, their subtleties when they communicate. Or if you're a female, you do the opposite. You understand that certain men are very overt in their communication, and that might not be as familiar to you as your subtle, covert method of communication. You might understand that some men, even though they might seem more attractive, have bad personality traits, and in the long run, that might not be in your best interest. You might understand the way men think about maybe sex, or about dressing a certain way, or whatever. And it'll ultimately change how you progress through life and how you determine who your lifelong partner will be. If you take the standard route, and if you get a graduate degree and get your if you get your master's, you sort of miss out on those experiences. If you do it my way and get a master's degree in life, you understand these things. These things all make more sense. And these things are all ultimately more valuable to you to live life in the best possible way. Like I said, Eudaimonia, flourishing, living the good life. All of those things are far more valuable to you than if you had just gone to school. Now, the reason why I say you should get your master's degree in life in your 20s, the reason why I say that, and the reason why I don't say in your 30s or 40s or 50s, is because, in my opinion, this plane is like really trying to ruin my video. In my opinion, the reason why I say your 20s is because, to me, your 20s is the last period of time when you can take massive risks. Usually. Obviously, everyone's different. Obviously, some people have different life circumstances or different goals that will change that time frame. But in general, in my opinion, your 20s is that last decade of time where you can really take massive risk. I say this, and some people disagree. Some people say, in your 30s or 40s, you can also take risk. Or in your 30s or 40s, you have more experience. And I would say I disagree with both of those statements. I think, one, experience comes with doing. You need to do things to get experience. If you just read all day, it's not the same as the guy who acts, as the guy who tries to perform, as the guy who fails and gets back up and fails and gets back up and fails and gets back up. It's not the same at all. You get experience by putting yourself out there, taking risks. You understand the little nuances. You understand the game a lot more. Who do you think is more effective? A poker player that actually plays poker every single weekend, or a poker player that never played poker but read about every single poker strategy in the world? Who do you think is a better poker player? Obviously, the guy who actually plays poker is a better poker player because he knows the ins and outs. He understands the nuance. He's seen it before. He's fallen victim to it, or he's used it to his advantage. So the whole idea of just being older, giving you more experience, to me is false. Because a lot of times people get older, but as they age, they do the exact same thing each year, and they play it so safe that they never actually progress. They never actually change anything. They don't take any risks. Your 20s is the time to take risks. Your 20s is the time to get that master's degree in life. Or some people will say, your 30s is fine too, your 40s is fine. Well, there are certain things about your 30s and your 40s, both biologically and sociologically. Is that a right word? Sociologically? I think so. We're going to say it is. Both biologically and sociologically, that will hinder your ability to take risks. For example, if you're in your 30s, there's a good chance you want to settle down. Maybe you want to get married. Maybe you want to have kids. Maybe if you're a girl, biologically speaking, that might be the best time to try to actually have kids. You might not have time to wait till your 40s to have kids. If you were in your 20s, you could have had experiences. You could have made mistakes. You could have learned from them. You could have grown as an individual. When you're in your 30s and you're forced to say have kids or forced out of family, and when I say forced, I mean you're on a time crunch, I'll put it that way. It's more difficult to take a massive risk. If you're in your 20s, for example, and you don't have a family, it's a lot simpler to, say, start a company and go bankrupt. Let's just say you started a company, you went bankrupt. Sure, it sucks. Sure, it'll hurt your credit. But realistically speaking, you could recover by your 30s, and that would ultimately override everything. You could have a string of relationships in your 20s. They might not all work out. But by the time you get to your 30s, you know what you're looking for. You know how to do A, B, and C. You don't have a scarcity mindset if you're a guy, because you know how to date. You know how to find girls. You know how to vet your girls properly. And if you're a girl, you know how to find a quality partner. You know where quality men are. You know what to look for in a quality man, because you've gone on multiple dates. You've experienced different types of men during your 20s, if that makes sense. But in your 30s, it might be a bit different, because in your 30s, the dating game might change a lot. And you might have known this in your 20s, but you might not be able to learn these lessons as effectively in your 30s. Hopefully that makes sense. Same with money, or same with health. In your 20s, you can build up a certain foundation of health, and you can get away with more. You can diet less strictly. You can eat more junk. In your 30s, you might not be able to be as risky. You might not be able to eat as much crap as consistently and get away with it. So it becomes more difficult. So that's my ultimate point on the whole people saying that your 30s and 40s, you can also take risks. I don't disagree that you can't take risks. I think you certainly can take risks in your 30s and 40s. But my overall point is that in your 20s, I think that's the best time to take risks. So ultimately what I think people should do is use their 20s as a way to get that master's degree in life. Use your 20s as a way to get those skills, get those insights, get those experiences in life. And I think by doing that, you will set your life up to be far better, to be far more fulfilling. And ultimately, by doing those things, that's how you live the good life. That's how you achieve eudaimonia. That's how you get that flourishing. So hopefully that video helped. Hopefully this all made sense and wasn't too long-winded. As always, leave a comment below. Shoot me a DM if you ever have any questions. Peace.